Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Kavinsky's Tutorials. And belated happy drone day. So I'm going to do a walkthrough of this new app by sqsl or Seqsual or Seqsual, depending on how you pronounce it. Seqsual. On the App Store called Michal, I'm just guessing that pronunciation, Michal, Macura, Macura. So this is a Midi controller that sends out CC messages. It's for iPad, and here I'm using it to control apps loaded on my iPad. But you could also send that Midi to, a desktop or hardware or whatever, as long as you know how to set that up. So here I'm just going to look at the basic setup to get it to control some things in AUM. So here you can see it's controlling these sliders in Fundamental 2. And I've also set it up to control some things in Ringatron. But right at the moment, those settings are static. I haven't automated those, so you're not actually seeing any movement here. But I'll get that moving later on. So let's just look first of all at strips. So this is what it looks like, and it's important, make sure whatever you're sending the MIDI to is set up to receive on the channel that that's sending out on. So I have this set to receive from Seqsual strips output. If you don't do that, nothing's going to happen. So we're back here in the main UI. So what we have, this is basically a fader bank. So you've got here, this is bank A with 8 different faders in it, and I've automated those. Those are the ones controlling fundamental. Here is bank B with these faders that are controlling Ringatron, and as I say, they're static. But if I start going in and playing with these, you can hear that's controlling that ring modulation. So let's look at the controls and how to use this. So you jump between banks. Here's this bank C. I have not set this up. D, E, F. So total of 6 banks, 8 faders in each bank. This is the strips page. This is where you perform, basically. So you're going to interact with the strips here. So you can do this in various ways. So if I, for example, turn play off here, now these are just sending static values, and I can either tap to jump to a value as long as the knob mode is not on. Now this fundamental is not very noticeable, some of those, because of the ring modulation on top. You can hear this one a bit. This one you'll hear a lot. That's controlling the ring modulation in fundamental. So if we turn this knob button on, now when you tap somewhere down here, it won't jump to that value, like I'm tapping there and nothing's happening. Instead, you just tap and move, and the knob will move as normal. So I usually keep it with knob off so that I can jump to values. That can be really fun on this ring modulation. Doing timed taps. Or you can slide, right? So you can record your automation. Very simple, just press record and make some movements. And then you can either just press stop on record and it will stay static until you press play, or you can press play immediately after you You know, when you press play when you're recording, let's just show that. So I'm recording again. And now I just press play and it jumps immediately to play. So what's really interesting also is there's a random button here. So if I press random, instead of playing back what I recorded, it will just randomly change the values on the knob. I think I prefer the automation I recorded, so I'll leave that on. Just turn this down a little bit. So what I love is there's this rates page. And so here you can control the rate of the automation for each slider. So here, remember we've only automated the first slider at the moment. So here, if it's set to 1, it's just going to play back at the speed that I recorded it at. If I bring it down to about 0.50, if we go back now to the strips page, you'll see this is moving much more slowly. So this is super cool as well. So you can also use that as a kind of performance tool. You could play the rate sliders. Let's just put it back up to 1. Now there's also a freeze button here. You just freeze that and then turn it back on. I'm gonna just turn off that automation for a minute. I just turn things down a little bit. So you can see here every slider has a label, and I've just labeled them showing the channel and the CC number that's being sent. And then the number here shows the actual value. So at the moment this is sending CC18, value of 75. Now one thing that's a pity is there's no way here to set the minimum and maximum value for sliders. Like there is, for example, in Brambos and Heinbach's Flus app. That's one of the things I like about the sliders in that. I wonder if that's something that the developer of this app could add, because it really is very nice to have that. But just to mention for anybody who doesn't know, if you're using AUM, for example, as I am here, it's very easy to adjust those kind of things. So I go in here to AUM, and as I say, we've already set this up as a control source. That's very important. But here we have all the mappings. I'm just going to tap assigned, and now here we'll see all the things that I've mapped and which CCs are assigned to them. Remember that in AUM, mapping is very quick and easy because it has its own inbuilt MIDI learn system. So again, if you just tap this and you tap this knob and you tap, for example, this slider, you get this thing coming up, and this is where you can dial in, what channel you want. You can either, go forward and backwards using these buttons, or double tap here to call these up and choose from a list. And so again, here you've got, a choice of different MIDI type messages you can send. And here you're choosing, in this case, it's because I've chosen CC here, we're choosing the CC number. So you can double tap and enter that, or you can scroll along here. But what I wanted to show you is you can also limit the range here in AUM. So for example, if I only wanted this slider to be able to roam between, let's say, like kind of medium values, then I just go in and adjust this. If I bring this down and put this up, then it can traverse the whole slider. So I don't really mind that much that it doesn't have that, but it would be a lot handier, because coming in and accessing these in AUM is it's just a bit more work, But yeah, well, it is what it is. All right. So let's just jump back out here and look at the setup page. So here, as you saw, I was choosing an AUM, sqsl strips output, Seqsual strips, aka Seqsual strips. choosing this as the output, but you have a few different options you can choose from. Here it's sending on session 1. The only important thing is just make sure in the app that's receiving MIDI from this that you have it, that you have it matching this. Whatever this is putting out, that's what you have to be receiving. So next, AUM. So it doesn't matter which of these I use, I can access all these in AUM anyway. So let's just stick with that. So this is where we can label things. So if I tap here, I can see the label of that, and I can also clear it. I can create a random name if I want. Then over here, you have a button, CC number and channel. So if this is set to CC number, when I adjust this, I'm adjusting which CC it's sending out. So for example, now this would be sending out CC45 instead. But you notice the label doesn't change, because remember, this is actually a label. This is not showing you which CC is being sent out. It's just that's never going to change, because that's the label that I've put in there, unless I manually change it. So I'm just going to take this back to 18. I kind of wish there was undo and redo buttons in this. So yeah, so with this pressed, when you drag here, you're adjusting the CC number. If you press channel, when you drag here, you're adjusting the channel. There's a little bug in here. It's showing channel 0 to 15, but it should be channel 1 to 16. But that'll be fixed, I'm sure, in an update. Just know, if you choose 0 in here, at the moment, it's actually sending on channel 1. If you choose 1, it's actually sending on channel 2. Just a little labeling error in the app. Okay. So that's that page. So remember, you got different labeling you can do for all the sliders in every bank. Don't forget about that. So the right page, this is just where you save your presets. So these colored slots already have something saved in them, and these darker ones are empty, and you have 8 pages of buttons like these that you can save to. Here you can see preset names. So if I tap here, for example, here it's showing the name of this first one. If I tap here, it shows the name of this one. We go back here we're seeing the name of this space, and here we're seeing the name for this one. So if you want to write a preset, you just tap somewhere. So you can overwrite by tapping on one that you've already saved, or you can go to an empty one and tap it and type in your name and okay. Well, let's see what sort of random names it comes up with. Pretty random, yeah. Only thing is, there doesn't seem to be a way to actually clear something out. Like, you can rename blah blah blah, but this will still be lit up. I hope that gets changed. I think it's confusing, because I've got a few things here that I was just experimenting, trying to make sure that I was using this system properly. But there's nothing useful saved in these, and it's just kind of annoying because I don't really, I don't necessarily remember that. Whoops, nearly dropped my MIDI controller. Don't necessarily remember that when I look at the app. So we go in here. Here we're on the read page. There's something very important to pay attention to here. So first of all, also here we're seeing a visualization of the session that we've got going. Now I'm just going to go back and put these knobs in motion again. Let's go to bank B and put a couple of these in motion. So here is where we load presets. Just tap on one of these to load it. But there's also a really cool feature, and that is this thing over here. So the preset we've currently got loaded is this one here. What I want to do is morph to another preset. So I'm going to morph to this one here. This one doesn't have anything. It doesn't have any automation or anything. It's just all the sliders down at 0, if I remember right. So what I'm going to do is press pick next, and then I press here. Okay, and nothing's actually changed yet. What we're seeing here is still the values for this preset. What's going to start changing when I use this crossfader, this is like a DJ crossfader. So here, that's fading down to 0 gradually. So if I had non-zero values in there, it would fade gradually to whatever those are. Plus, I mean, I can just dial in a little bit, and I can also basically use this as a kind of performance control. Just in this case, the way it's set up, it's not an interesting one to use. I'm just showing you it as an example. So rate, as I say, we have all these rate sliders here, and we can just slow down and speed up that automation for each slider. And again, different banks. So you can see I've already got all the rates down quite low on bank A. As I say, we've got the freeze option here as well if we want. Just record a little bit of automation into some of these. So you see that rate slider is down low, so it's playing back much slower. So what a useful app. You know, for people who are using something like AUM that doesn't have built-in automation, this is just super useful. I find some people got a bit confused, by the way, by the fact that I'm, using it to control fundamental, which just happens to have 8 sliders here, and asking, what could I use instead of fundamental? But you can use anything, like anything that you could automate and that you'd like to automate via, a slider system like this. Anything you don't want to use LFO, say you want to dial things in yourself, then this app is perfect for that. The only disadvantage of this app, for me as someone who currently doesn't use desktop and won't be using this to control desktop apps and is using AUM, is that it would just be so much more useful for me if this was an AUv3. But there is one other little app that's quite handy for these sort of situations called Session Notes. It only costs, I think, $2. And even though AUM does have its own little thing in here to write notes, those notes that you write are kind of hidden away in here. And I kind of really prefer to have something that can be loaded in a node here in AUM, and I can leave it like this when I save my session. And this will be the first thing I see, and it just reminds me. So I just wrote strips preset to use is 2 to 32 even, because I just sent it out 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and so on. Bank A and B. Bank A controlling fundamental, Bank B controlling ringatron. So, it's not as convenient as having an AUv3, it's not. Plus, I would absolutely massively prefer, if I had this open here, for example, and I had a little miniaturized version of strips in here, and I could have that inside here loaded, and I could play with it and see exactly what's happening here on the UI, that would be preferable. But this is still very useful for me and beautifully beautifully designed app. I love this developer's aesthetic and the UI and UX design. The only aspect of this I don't really like is the system for writing and reading presets. It's too much based on hardware. It looks nice, but it's not that practical. If you have long names as well, you can't see the name. So, like, I had to adjust this name, and originally it was longer, but in the longer version I couldn't see the end of it. So that to me is not good UI and UX, that part. But the rest of it is absolutely beautiful, very useful, very thoughtfully designed. Oh, I should mention, by the way, the inspiration for this app, or a lot of the ideas in this app, the developer told me were mentioned to him by a guy called Felix, and he's on Bandcamp and stuff. Got a name that's a bit hard to remember, Makonuchi Bento or Manakuchi Bento or something like that. I'll stick links to his Bandcamp and stuff in the pinned comment of this video. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this, everyone. Hope it was useful for you. If it was, please smash the like, etc. Remember, there are loads of ways to support my channel, like if you're a developer, sponsoring videos, if you're a viewer, donating from time to time, joining Patreon, where you also get a lot back in return, or use affiliate links like my plugin boutique link. Unfortunately, the App Store for Apple does not have an affiliate program. It hasn't had one since 2017. I keep telling people this, but some people still seem under the misconception that they are financially helping YouTubers like me when they click Apple App Store links on our videos. No, don't get a penny from that. And as I've said many times, that's why there is so few YouTubers left in this space, because there's almost no money from ad revenue. And so if you're working in a niche where there's no money from ad revenue, because the niche is just too small, then you have to get money from somewhere. If you're doing this, hardcore like I am, 5 years putting a lot of time into it, unless you're independently wealthy, and I'm certainly not, you cannot afford to put that time in. So money has to come from somewhere. And if channels like this are valuable to the developers, and they really do help developers sell apps, even if that's not the primary intention. Primary intention for me is education. But of course it helps developers sell apps. And it also helps viewers. It saves time. I learned the app. It saves you a lot of time having to figure everything out yourself. So it's a real great value proposition for the community, but the YouTubers are not, in general, getting a fair return on what they're giving. So that kind of support is just super crucial, everybody. So thank you to all of you who are supporting me in one way or the other. I really appreciate it. And happy automating, happy modulating. See you in the next video. Cheers.